Now, again, if you could just mute yourself, if you are a participant, you will. So welcome everyone that's joining us. I'm just gonna wait a couple more seconds, maybe a minute or two to let people get connected. Hello, hi Terry.
Oh, Terry, is that you? My Terry. Oh my God.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Are you settled?
Kind of.
Good luck.
Takes a while getting used to the cold weather.
Which I like really a lot.
Do you?
After Atlanta, the humid, the hot, I love here in New York.
Do you have a lot of snow?
Yes, perfect.
We're getting used to wearing boots and hats and big coats and sweaters.
Hafsa, I put the
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, great. So you can share that. All right. Well, I think I might just start doing some of the introductions. So my name is Geneva Blackmer, and I'm the program director for the Interfaith Center, located at the Miami University campus in Oxford, Ohio. And our mission is to invite people of diverse religious, spiritual, and secular worldviews to participate in one another's practices in order to cultivate appreciative understanding and to build friendships and relationships, as well as unify them around common moral, social, and ethical concerns in order to build a more just and equitable world. So I'm really happy to welcome Hafza here with us today. Hafza Girdap does her PhD in Women's and Gender Studies at Stony Brook University in New York, and her research area is human and women's rights in Muslim contexts, integration and adaptation of Muslim immigrant women, along with the issue of redefinition of their cultural identities. She is a founding member of Set Them Free platform, who works for the women's rights violated, particularly in Turkey, a volunteer in different human rights organizations such as Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. She has given Sufism and women's rights are human rights courses at Emory University Continuing Education, and she has given speeches at several conferences such as the UNGA, UNCSW, and World Affairs Council Peace Conference about ongoing human rights violations in Turkey, mostly focusing on women's experiences and enforced migration. As having a personal motto in her life, which is let dreams lead you, she has a dream of running towards her ideal wherever and whenever possible. Another aspect of her is the love of meeting new people from different parts of the world with different cultural backgrounds. She is running online global book clubs on Instagram, where she also makes live interviews concerning women and youth and empowerment. Hafsa, with her two daughters, 17 and 12 years old, and her husband are living currently in Long Island, New York. And we are just very happy to have her with us today. And so I'm going to go ahead and just turn it over to you to start your presentation, and then we can open for questions later. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. So as Eva just introduced me, I'm Hafza Girdap. I was a teacher and international programs coordinator back in Turkey and have been living in the United States since July 2016, which means that I came here because of the political conflict in Turkey. First and foremost, again, I'm very happy and honored to be here with you. So today's topic is being a woman in the context of conflicts and persecution. Women's issues and women's rights have always been controversial in terms of their dynamics in specific contexts, as well as in the universal arena. In Muslim context, particularly, the political actors claim sovereign power and legitimacy for this power through many different discourses while making claims for human rights, women's rights. Furthermore, state policies and political agendas tend to control women and issues related to women. Increased violence against women during and after conflicts is clearly revealed in a report that was issued by former Secretary General Kofi Annan to the United Nations Security Council. Annan states that women and children are disproportionately targeted in contemporary armed conflict and constitute the majority of all victims. In other words, the most vulnerable victims of wars, of conflicts are women. And they are used as proxies, they are assaulted, oppressed, discriminated. And when it comes to Turkey, a reality of cruel violations of women's basic rights is encountered widely. I have to say that women's rights have never been truly enjoyed in Turkey. Moreover, women have always been subjugated, discriminated, and oppressed by the social, institutional, and structural actors predominantly. The laws are not properly implemented to protect women or to recognize their rights. And since July 15, 2016, Turkey's already eroding democratic mechanisms have started to collapse because of the government's and authorities' collective persecution of all political dissidents and critics. Almost 130,000 people were dismissed from their jobs by emergency decrees, and those dismissed include a substantial number of women. Moreover, the government's harsh persecution has reached the lives of thousands of women, along with their infants and children in many cases. The current administration uses arbitrary arrests and lengthy pretrial detentions to imprison courageous women who have opposed oppression in their own capacity. Today, according to our organization's reports and also to the reports of many other human rights organizations, intergovernmental organizations, along with the reports of the State Department here in the US, the number of women arbitrarily incarcerated as political prisoners is more than 5,000, with a devastating increase in the number of new victims. And among those persecuted are more than 700 mothers who have been imprisoned with their infants, and various others have been violently separated from their children. I know this is very familiar here too. And in Turkey, imprisoned women and prisoners of conscience in particular live in unsanitary prisons and are denied their rights to nutritional food, access to basic and complex healthcare, and feminine hygiene products. According to Bangkok rules that were adopted by the UN General Assembly in 2010, non-custodial sentences for pregnant women and women with dependent children shall be preferred. In spite of these considerable rules and laws about the pregnant woman and women in their postpartum period, there have been several incidents of violence against and ill treatment of women in prisons. Additionally, Turkey also signed and ratified CEDAW, which means Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women in 1985. However, most of the articles in that convention are being violated by the Turkish authorities. Among these violated rights are right to fundamental freedoms in the political, economic, social, cultural, civil, or any other fields. According to CEDAW, again, women in state parties must be ensured with appropriate services in connection with pregnancy, confinement, and the postnatal period. It is reported by the Stockholm Center for Freedom and Advocacy organization that the Turkish government's persecution of critics have systematically and deliberately targeted vulnerable groups, such as women, children, in order to apply undue pressure on men who are forced to sign false confessions, even though they have not committed any crime. And also that the abuse of women and children ranges from sexual abuse to physical torture and ill treatment. Pregnant, elderly, and sick women or women with babies have been denied effective access to healthcare, Their visitation rights were ignored, and they were threatened with the persecution of other family members, including their children. Furthermore, discrimination and violence against women, including femicide, have risen drastically. In 2012, 300 women were killed. We Will Stop Femicide organization in Turkey, an advocacy of women's rights organization based in Turkey, stated in their 2020 report that the year of 2020 ended with extraordinary period that with the prevalent coronavirus pandemic across the world and Turkey, of course. And according to this report, with the extraordinary precautions taken against extraordinary conditions, everyone has stayed home, which has resulted in the fact that the conditions for women have worsened. On top of all aforesaid political conflict, which is extremely impactful on women, domestic violence has desperately increased. Furthermore, Turkey's government, or I should say Turkey's staggering authoritarian regime, let the conflicting atmosphere and misogynists and opponents of equality open up the Istanbul Convention, again an international convention which aims to protect women's rights. They open up the Istanbul Convention for discussion through a so-called religious discourse. And the attacks to the convention have increased again, according to the We Will Stop Femicide report. International community also has frequently expressed their concerns about human rights issues in Turkey, especially in the last decade. The regime has not abandoned its attitude relying on its consolidated power. The 2010 SIDO Turkey Shadow Report declared that the increasing conservatism in Turkey during the reporting period poses a threat to women's ability to enjoy their rights and freedoms. I need to clarify here that we need to read the term increasing conservatism as the rising political Islam used as a proxy by the regime. And in such an environment, laws are not properly implemented to protect women against violence and oppression, or even to recognize their basic rights. I have communicated with a lot of women, persecuted women, because of my research in the university and also within my human rights work at Advocacy of Silence Turkey, where I'm the executive director and the spokesperson. I recall a woman, now an asylee here in the United States, granted asylum. She could not help herself crying while telling about her fear of being detained, where women are sexually harassed and even raped when she still was back in Turkey. She, just like thousands of other immigrant women across the world, initially did not want to leave Turkey, but having dreaded with the news regarding aforementioned cases in detentions, she eventually decided to migrate. In other words, the only motive behind her immigration was the ongoing sexual harassment and rape cases in detentions and jails, unfortunately. And as a result of all those cases of violence, persecution, oppression, dissidents, including thousands of women, were forced to make a choice. Stay in Turkey and face these circumstances, or leave the country to an unknown future in terms of economy, occupation, living standards. UNHCR, the Refugee Agency of United Nations, states that 79.5 million people were forcibly displaced worldwide as of 2019 as a result of a persecution or conflict or sexual or gender oppression. Again, as of 2019, the number of refugees were 6 million. There were 2 million asylum applications and 4.2 million stateless people. As you obviously may guess, a great deal of them were women. And from Turkey, thousands of people have been fleeing the country for a freer, safer life. And among them are women who are teachers, academics, doctors, or simply volunteers of a charity organization. And these people have three choices: being detained or being vigilant to be detained anytime, living as a civil debt who cannot work anywhere legally with rights, or the last option, leaving the country legally or illegally if the passport is seized. I know, and this is also stated in our reports, that hundreds of people lost their lives during those dangerous journeys. Why are hundreds of people risking their lives to get away from their own countries? The answer is actually very simple. They are indeed socially and civilly dead, as I said. Thousands of people were dismissed from their jobs, both from government institutions and private companies. They cannot work anywhere else, since there's a great prejudice, hatred, and stigmatization. And this pressing atmosphere is created against them through media propaganda, which leads to exclusion and isolation from the society because of the government's oppressive approach. So to wrap it up, I would like to say that we, as advocates of Silence Turkey, stand for the rights of the women who are victims of discrimination, violence, and persecution in Turkey, by means of submitting our reports or individual cases to intergovernmental bodies such as United Nations relevant committees or to European Court of Human Rights, and also by means of protests, books, papers, exhibitions, and more. And through them, we demand proper implementation of laws which recognize and protect the women's rights and well-beings. And at this point, I want to mention a very recent work, a book of which I'm the editor, The Baby in the Bag. I want to show it here, the last book, The Baby in the Bag. And the title of the book is coming from the first story in the book, the story of a woman who had to leave Turkey, of course, through illegal ways to Georgia, the country of Georgia. And she had to give medication to let her baby sleep and then put it in a bag, because of the smugglers. Yeah, and this book, in which you will have a close insight to human rights violations in Turkey, as well as their impact on people's lives through reading true life stories. As advocates of Silence Turkey, we have been interviewing people who are exposed to persecution in Turkey. So far, hundreds of people have been interviewed. And this book, as I said, it's a compilation of 4 riveting first-hand accounts of the stories of whom that fled the persecution in Turkey. And as the final words, I'd like to take this moment to tell you on behalf of hundreds of volunteers in our organization, and also on behalf of the persecuted women with whom I'm in close contact for my academic researches, for my human rights work, and as one of them, how much I appreciate and how grateful I am to you for your concern about and support for human rights, women's rights.
Thank you so much. Is there somewhere that we can purchase the book? Do you have a link or?
Yes, actually it's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and the deliveries have just started. So yeah, I can share it with you right now or after the event.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to just drop it in the chat, maybe, and then I can send it out to everyone who registered as well.
Okay,
and I can share it on Facebook too. We did already get one question in the chat from Vasu. I would like to ask, how is the response of the people for local social movements to protect the human rights of women?
And regarding Turkish women or regarding the general women's rights?
Do you want to clarify that? Vasu, you can unmute yourself if you'd like.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Hafza, for sharing. And I would like to clarify, my question is about in Turkey.
So yeah, thank you for asking this question, which is a very important point. Here in the United States, in Canada, where we have volunteers, I mean, across the world, in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, we have volunteers, and they are collaborating with local organizations, local social movements, local human rights groups. And so far we have had really great support. We have organized panel discussions such as this one, or we have organized photo exhibitions. And after the awareness that we have raised through these events, they join us in our actions, which is directed to the intergovernmental organizations I mentioned earlier.
Thank you. Did you want to say something else, Hafza?
Thank you. Just I want to say thank you. Thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you for listening, for paying attention.
We've received another question in the chat from Terry. Does the Turkish government distinguish prosecuting secular women from observant women?
I mean, in the historical context of Turkey, women from different sects have always been, witnessing, being exposed to discrimination, violence, or oppression. But during this administration, the scope of the woman has just, widened. In the earlier times before this administration, mostly Kurdish women, mostly Alevi women, mostly Armenian women were being exposed to such kind of violence, such kind of oppression. But within this last decade, within this current administration, there is no separation among the women. All women who are dissidents are exposed to strip searches, for example, in the jails, or even the visitors of the political prisoners are being exposed to strip searches in the entrance of the jails or detention centers, whoever they are.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question? And feel free, you can also unmute yourself. You don't have to type it in the chat. Terry?
How is your family doing?
I mean, it's a complicated situation, Terry, because, not all, but most of the dissidents now in the United States or different democratic countries or, third world countries, they are having this fear if something happens to their families back in Turkey, if they speak out, publicly, there are, of course, these concerns. But on the other hand, some of us have the courage to speak out because of the amount of the violence or persecution happening in Turkey. So we have to choose either way, to stay silent with the fear of the family members, or stay, or no, I'm not, afraid of you. Even if I just stay silent, your persecution is going on there. So I want to speak out against whatever you are doing. So my family, I lost just my dad during this COVID I mean. So
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you for your concern and for your solidarity. So yeah, but he was supporting us within our with our activism. He was supporting us, thankfully.
I'm really sorry for your loss as well.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question? And you, like I said, you can unmute yourself and ask directly if you'd like, or you can type in the chat. Really sorry for your loss as well.
Oops.
Getting some Facebook feedback, huh?
I just, touched on
yeah,
that.
I know. That happened to me earlier with the YouTube started playing another video.
I know.
Anyone want to jump in with a question? While that's stewing, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the work you're doing with Advocates of Silence Turkey, because we've done a couple other programs, with EUP highlighting some of that work, and just how people can get involved if they, if this is something that they're really concerned about and they want to help in some way. What can they do?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, because I just forgot to mention a very, upcoming event. March, in the month of March, there is the Women's Rights Day, the United Nations Women's Rights Day. So on occasion of that day, we plan 2 events. On March 6th, we are gonna hold street protests on 29 locations in United States and in Canada. Of course, paying attention to the social distancing and wearing masks, being aware of that, and we'll raise awareness about the ongoing persecution and the violence, the femicide that I mentioned on March 6th. And also, I know that in Kansas there will be a protest too, because we have a volunteer there, we have an advisory board there, so I'm sure that they will do. And also on March 21st, we'll be holding a virtual protest globally, I mean, on YouTube as a live streaming. And there will be 30-40 people giving their video messages regarding the women's rights violations, in Turkey. And we are planning to have more than 50,000 people watching live this, virtual protest, which is very important for us to make an impact globally. You're all invited. And if you have, any messages that you want to send, video messages, please feel free. We will be very, happy if you want to send. I can, share my, on this chat box, I can share my email address, and we will be very happy. And I said that we are archiving the stories of the persecuted people, not only of women, any people, the children, the young people. And we are sharing them on our website in Turkish, in English, in Spanish, in different languages. And we are also publishing people. This is our first book, which makes us very, excited, and more books are coming. And also within the United Nations CSW in March again, between, I can't remember, it will take 2 weeks, the 2nd week and the 3rd week of March, we will be holding more than 10 panels regarding different, aspects of women's rights globally, including the women's in Turkey. And in that panels, we'll be talking about the diversity and women's contribution to diversity matters. And we will be talking about refugees or immigrant women all around the world. We will be talking about women in media and so on and so forth. So, as I said, publications, reporting, exhibitions, conferences, panels, and more. These are the things that we use as proxies to raise awareness and take action.
Is there somewhere where all of those events are listed? Is it on your website?
Yes,
or
on our website, www.silenceturkey.org.
silenceturkey.org.
Yeah, and all the events, past events, upcoming events, and on December 9th and 10th, on the occasion of Human Rights Day, the International Human Rights Day, we just organized a conference which included 5 different panel sessions and 30 speakers, really eminent, prominent speakers, talked about different aspects of the human rights violations in Turkey. Freedom of speech, or the rising political Islam and the shift from democratization to authoritarianism, the violations of women's rights, the violations of minority rights, and the other aspects of human rights violations in Turkey. And it really drew a great attention. And it was broadcasted on state channels in Turkey, and you can imagine from what perspective, of course. So yeah, we're hoping to make an impact to end these violations, to end torture cases. There are several torture cases, and every day we are hearing about them. We are trying to stop them. All we can do is to raise awareness, and through this awareness, taking action all around the world, wherever we can do.
Thank you. I shared that in the chat. If they want to send a video for the virtual protest, do they email that, or?
So they can email it directly to me. I'll write it to here too, because I'm gonna coordinate the video message and the virtual protest thing. So it would be perfect if you can email it to me. if anyone who wants to, tell a message, say a message, can email to me and I can share more details, technical details or content details. That would be perfect in terms of, putting a good job forth.
Perfect, thank you.
Of course.
It looks like there is another question in the chat from Jen. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with this person. She's asking about someone from Muslim history, Nawal el-Sadawi, I might be pronouncing that incorrectly, who was born in 1931, persecuted for her book on women and sex and female genital mutilation, was a physician and psychiatrist. She's asking if you could share any reflections about her life.
Not particular that person, but I made some research and studies about this, female genital mutilation. I mean, I attended some conferences and panels about this particular topic. It's horrible, and I'm really sorry that that person just, was persecuted because of talking about that. Yeah, which country was she or he? She.
Jen, did you want to maybe give a little bit more background on your question? You can unmute yourself.
Egypt, yeah. I'll go and check, search about her. In Africa, in different parts of the world, women are oppressed, women are discriminated and, exposed to violence through different ways. In a context, it could be religion. In a context, it could be politics. In a region, in a context, there are different ways that, oppressors want to use. Want to use, in terms of using their power. So yeah, it changes. In United States, I know that there are lots of women who are experiencing violence, specifically in this term, in this, times of pandemic, domestic violence as well. Yeah, or Black women or women of color. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of overlap here in the United States with some of these issues. Does anyone else have any additional questions? Feel free to jump in.
In the second story of this book, there is a woman who entered the United States through the southern border, and she stayed maybe 3 weeks or a month in the detention centers with her 3 kids. Her husband just, came to United States with a visa, but she and her children didn't have a, a legal visa to enter the United States in a legal way. So they came through Mexico, if I'm not mistaken. And during her stay in the detention centers, she in the story, she's telling about her experiencing her, encounters with other women from Mexico, from Colombia, from Venezuela. And I see the details which display very explicitly that women actually are experiencing the same kind of things, even if their colors, even if their religions, identities are different. So in a coming together, maintaining a unity, solidarity as women or as people who have concerns about women, I think it's gonna be, a solution, a way, a power, even if, it will take again a long time, but it's worth that.
Absolutely. Do you have a favorite story from the book?
Of course, the baby in the book bag. I read this story. I talked to people. I listened to them in person, and then I read this again and again. But each and every time, her story, affects me a lot. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, sorry, I was just typing that.
Yeah, because this is very important. When you have people just looking at you, listening to you, concerning what you feel, concerning what you want to do, this empowers. This is empowerment.
Absolutely. And we're really happy to offer a platform for that. And I hope that we get a lot more engagement, on YouTube and Facebook Okay, we just got another question. When you look ahead 5 years from now, what do you hope to see?
You know what? I just gave up planning ahead. I'm just seizing the day because let me tell you, we were living in Istanbul with our kids, and I was a teacher and international programs coordinator. My husband had a really good career as an export manager in an international company. I mean, you know, the economic standards were good. We had a house which we owned, but then we ended up here and we left everything there. We had plans and they stayed there too. So I learned to seize the day. I learned to take all the opportunities at the moment that I have. But from now on, 5 years ahead, I want to work in the United Nations for all the women of the world. So please pray for that. Yeah. And I have a daughter. I mean, I want to talk about the youth. We have a very active youth in our communities because they know what's happening. So they are being panelists in the United Nations, or they are doing their own events in their schools, in their colleges, to raise awareness, to tell about the stories of those people. So it's you know, promising for the future. It's hopeful.
I hope very much that you get to the United Nations.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
We have another question in the chat from Keith. How bad is the situation for Syrian women refugees on the ground in Turkey?
So that's something that I feel painful. When I was there, we were trying to help them to resettle in Turkey, but not that much. When I think about those times, I feel that I didn't do much, because when you experience something, you get it much more better. I mean, I'm an immigrant woman here, which is an asylum seeker, and I have a good, you know, academic career, but I started from scratch here. So I'm thinking about the Syrian women back in Turkey. I know that they were doctors, they were academics, and they had children. I wish I really did much more better for them. And they are working without mostly insurances, and you know, for really, really funny amounts of, you know, daily what's the wages. So yeah, because again, there is the political motive back in Turkey. They brought to Turkey, but without, you know, any resettlement plans because of the political concerns. They are, you know, they are assigned some citizenship, things that they could vote, which is a good thing for the government. But regarding the educational system, the language barriers, the adjustment programs, it's not enough. So I wish I could do more.
Wish we could do more for them here as well. Okay, I don't see any more questions in the chat. Does anyone have a question they want to jump in?
I see a private message in the chat box, and about United Nations applications. I know it takes a while. They are aware of the situations, but of course we have to admit, even if we don't want to accept, we have to admit that there are some political barriers, even in the you know, the human rights organizations. It takes a while to let them know what's happening, to let them take action. But my advice, I'm not a person in a place that can give advice, but within my experience, I'm sending emails, reports, you know, individual submissions every day and every day without giving up. One day they will see, one day they will take action. Otherwise, what can I do? I just sit down. I can't accept that. And social media is very impactful. I advise to use the social media really effectively to raise awareness with hashtags, with reaching out to impactful people, to tell something about your concern on the social media. You know, Enes Kanter, the NBA player, he's very effectively using the social media, and through that, he let the people know what's going on and have them join in his actions. Even the senators, maybe I don't know if you saw a letter, 54 senators signed, and this letter was sent to Biden to warn Turkey, to invite him about the human rights concerns and take action against Turkey. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Your supports are really, really meaningful.
Thank you to everyone who took the time to call in today. All right, are there any more questions or comments?
Yeah, I really would love to have you in our March 6th protest, 21st March virtual protest. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go to the website and pull all of the event information, and I will email that out to everyone who registered, because there are people who registered who didn't make it. So we want to make sure to get all of that information in their hands, as well as the link to purchase the book. So I think that's going to be a great platform for uplifting those stories. So,
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing that with all of us. If there aren't any more questions, did you have any closing thoughts or comments that you want to leave everyone with? Did you just get a private question?
Yes. Yeah, it was a thank you message and about the book. I just purchased the book. Oh my
great.
God. Oh, thank you so much. How a speedy person you are. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, regardless of our differences of color, differences of religion, differences of sexes, differences of genders, ethnicities, I mean, we have to come together with concerns of each of us, having. I think this is the best way to struggle, to best way to fight against the oppression we have in different, contexts of different contexts in our lives. So this thing that we come together, that we tell about our stories, each other, and we have support from each other, I think this is the only and the best way for humanity. Because, oppressors or authoritarians are using the differences or separations or conflicts among us. When I came to the United States, I attended my first interfaith and dialogue event. I don't know if Terry was there. I can't remember. There was Rose. You remember Rose from Atlanta? Rose. So she was just, of course, I didn't know her at that time. She was just sitting next to me, and everybody was introducing themselves. And I told my story, how I came to the United States. It's another story, by the way. And she just, whispered to my ear that I am the person in this room who could understand you the best. You know why? Because of the experience that she had. I don't know she personally experienced that, but the Holocaust. So yeah, you understand what I mean? Each and every one of us, have had different aspects of this kind of persecutions or problems or pains. So why not sharing? I was coming to the United States because of a summer vacation in 2016 with my students. And we were on the plane, and there were 2 or 3 hours until we landed in Miami. And I was just watching Lost, Lost. I was watching that, and then I just looked up the screens and I saw the President Erdogan on all the screens. And I asked, what's happening? Why is he there? And then I realized that a coup was happening in Turkey, and my husband and my younger daughter were back there. So I was frustrated, devastated. Then we landed, and in 2-3 days time, the schools were shut down that I was working for all thousands of schools. So I couldn't go back because I was in the administrative board, and I knew that if I went there, I would be arrested. So I called my husband and I said, I'm not coming. Please bring my daughter here. And he could somehow manage, to leave Turkey. And fortunately and thankfully, we are here. So I feel that in every morning when I wake up, I feel the beauty of freedom, the beauty of safety. So every morning when I wake up, and every evening, every night before I go to sleep, I remind myself, you have to pay back to your friends back there because you're free, you're breathing freely, you're breathing safely. So this is what I feel with my all, other volunteering friends.
Wow, if you had left just a few days, I mean, if your flight had been a couple days later, your whole situation could have been so different, right?
Absolutely.
Well, I think you were supposed to be here, and you're supposed to do this work for everyone else. So I'm really happy you made it.
Actually, what you said is perfectly, explaining the situation. I am meant to be here, so I got to do something.
Well, we're so grateful to have you, and I just thank you so much for doing this and for participating in this interfaith dialogue. And just want to make sure no one has any final questions before we wrap up. Jen says to bloom where you're planted. I think that you've done that successfully.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, for listening me, for sharing our, concerns with everyone. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who joined us on Zoom and Facebook and YouTube. And I will be sending out a follow-up email with all of the resources mentioned tonight, because there were a lot and we really want you to participate. So, and I'm planning to purchase the book when we get off of here. So that will be 2 copies you've sold.
Thank you. All the income will be donated to the project again itself.
That's amazing. So everyone buy a book. You have the link. So have a great night. Thank you so much, Hafsa.
Thank you, Hafsa.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.